Good day, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. J. Michael Wood. He is a doctor of medical Qigong. I'm getting better at this, at this pronunciation. Been working on it. He is here to give us an introduction, because I'm pretty sure we couldn't complete the entire catalog of everything there is to learn about it today, but you're going to give us a foundation for it, the fundamentals of it. And that would translate into conscious breathing. He's going to explain what that really means and how you can practice it yourselves. And I certainly am looking forward to some enlightenment myself. We have our panel of guests over here, and if you would like to introduce yourselves, that would be for our audience, just to let them know who you are. We'll start here.
I'm Jan Edwards.
I'm Joe Edwards.
I'm Regina Fry.
And I'm Christopher Young. I'll be over there as well, because I'm going to be part of the panel as well. So I'll be throwing questions out there. Hopefully, I won't throw you any curveballs or anything, but
Probably not at this point.
I don't expect that there's much that you can't explain, because I know this is so. The depth of it is, and the breadth of it is immense. So I think that we'll just jump right into it, because there's a lot of information, and it's more than just breathing. You know, it's not simply inhale, exhale sort of thing, or take a deep breath and your doctor, is listening to your lungs. It's so much more than that, just in a brief little introduction that I've had. So if you're ready and willing,
All right.
let's get started. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you for the introduction. And I've trained in Chinese medical Qigong now for over 23 years. I'm a doctor of Chinese medical Qigong, and I was trained in cathartic breath work, among other things, optimal breathing development specialist, and with the Hendricks Institute in California, and with Michael Grant White, optimalbreathing.com. He's the guru of breathing. I trained with both of them. I also trained in the medical Qigong. I was curious at the time about does breathing have anything to do with Qigong, and found out that basically nothing works without the breath done properly. I was trained in China and in California. I went through my master's program and the doctoral program in Houston, and then trained in China at Longhu Shan, a monastery, a Taoist monastery. It's been there since 87 AD, where we trained some very high level energy things that I'm still trying to integrate. That was in 2005. And subsequently in 2007 with a 100-year-old master in Beijing, Master Zhuan. I'm a level 4 practitioner with the National Qigong Association. I'm former chairman of the board of the National Qigong Association. And so just a little bit about the background. I came to do this work because I had a series of strokes in 1999. And was blind in the left periphery of both eyes, 6 months, and had a number of strokes. And that was caused by what we found out much later, that it's a blood clotting thing that's DNA. So Vanderbilt Hospital treated for, wasn't much anybody could have done about it. But I got kind of upset, and I said, I've got to figure out a way to do this, because the doctors basically said, sometimes these things happen and we just don't know why. Well, that was not a sufficient answer. So I stumbled into this thing about Qigong. And in 2000, I had a had a Qigong master from Master Chunyi Lin from St. Paul, Minnesota, at a conference take was able to actually recover 80% of the eyesight that I lost. I was blind in the left periphery of both eyes. It hit my right optic nerve, and I suddenly got it back. My neuro-ophthalmologist was stunned when I came back, and actually the graphs had changed. And so I thought Qigong was going to be that's the only answer I'd ever had to, after doing acupuncture, cathartic breath work, EMDR, EFT, and all the other assorted things that have been tried, even hyperbaric oxygen. None of them did anything in it. In a matter of 30 or 40 minutes, this guy literally healed my sight by 80% of what it was previously. So that's when I decided to be a Qigong master. And I like I say, I've always wondered if it was about the breath or anything, because I'd started working with the breathing people. And then I discovered it's everything about the breath. The breath has been the most critical thing in all civilizations. It goes back as far as we can even further, but at least the Latin word inspirare, it means breath and spirit. The same word means the same thing. The Greek word pneuma means breath and spirit. The Hebrew word huar means breath, wind, spirit. The word prana in yoga is breath and spirit as well. The Taoists themselves say the spirit of the Qi, which is the life force energy, but Qi is also breath. So the spirit of the Qi is in the breath. So in all these ancient languages, they were talking about the breath. Well, we're trained to take a breath and relax. Well, that's not necessarily the case. In fact, if you do the wrong kind of breathing, you will actually amp yourself up even worse. What they neglected to tell us, obviously, I've said this to my students when I teach, I said, they must have understood without a doubt there was more than one breath. There is a breath that creates hypervigilance, and that's called the fight or flight breath, the sympathetic breath. But there was also a breath that creates parasympathetic or rest, digest, heal, and actually connection back into this spirit aspect that we are, where this consciousness or soul or source energy that animates this suit. And it just is what it is, but then this suit, it's got a mind and a body and all that goes with it. But very quickly we get spooked. You know, first time as an infant where somebody says, boo, or stop, and the infant will freeze and will stop breathing. We're born breathing properly. An infant will, well-born breath will be with the belly rising and a little arching of the back, and then the belly will fall. Nothing in the chest at all, even though the lungs are up here. It's the movement of the diaphragm. But when they say stop, the diaphragm will freeze, and now you're breathing up here in the chest. So there were two breaths. They neglected to tell that, and I said, you know, the reason they didn't leave it in instructions like that, it occurs to me, is that it must have been so simple that cavemen could do it. So why would they have to worry about us? We'd be so smart. Well, I question that maybe sometimes. But this second breath is the one that we no longer use. Most humans are breathing what we call the fight or flight breath, and in a hypervigilant state. It puts you looking outward instead of the parasympathetic breath or rest, digest, heal breath, where you can heal where you're looking inward. Two breaths. We're a binary system. We start out as this light being that takes on this, what I call the survival suit that we own here and while we're on this planet. And when you have this suit and you have it frightened, suddenly it turns off its ability to connect to that which is within, and instead connects with this external threat to fight off the tiger. Well, the tiger, obviously you got to do that, and you need that fight or flight because it puts all this adrenaline in the body, and it does a whole lot of things. It pulls all this energy, creates a catabolic system in the body that's pulling all this energy to fight momentarily. But the cavemen knew how to then change and go back to the other breath and turn that off so the body could go back into its rest, digest, heal, and be in this state where humans are supposed to be living almost all the time. Now that tiger that they fought back in those days, I mean, he got threats, and we have threats here in our society as well. But interestingly, humans have this capacity. The left insular cortex of the brain takes in the sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. That's real. But humans have this ability with the right insular cortex to add emotional content and context to a circumstance, and you create memories. And those memories, some of that light force energy is added to that to hold those memories. This suit is a mnemonic. It holds everything. It just doesn't forget anything. It's designed to do that because it works off a sympathetic harmonic resonance. It feels the vibrations. Sight is not sight, it's sight. That's what the brain does. Sight is differentiation of light. That's vibrations. Sound is the same thing. So it is trying to get this suit and it to operate properly together so that you don't make yourself crazy, because those thoughts that you've done, that you've created, and I hate to do it to trigger anyone, but think back. You can pull a thought back and you're going to be breathing exactly like you were during that thought. What you've created is a videotape of that incident. And that's memorized and held in the body for future reference. It picks up the vibrations and it sympathetically vibrates with it and tells you instantaneously that you've got to act. The sympathetic nervous system operates in 12 milliseconds. 12 milliseconds. It takes 40 milliseconds to blink. You know how long it takes your brain to come online? Between 450 and 500 milliseconds. Have you ever had the experience, you're just having a nice day and you walk into a room someplace and suddenly you just stop and go, I'm not supposed to be here. Why would that be so? You can't even think about what it is. It's just you get that gut feeling, because that's what this light thing is. It's that gut feeling, the true knowledge, the insight, not what the mind's doing. This is an instinctive reaction that humans have, and it's basically a reptilian response. So we already reacted. And then after we'll be thinking, well, what was I reacting to? Or your brain will kind of come online. A lot of times you won't even know what it is that you're reacting to. But what the energy body, this energy body that surrounds you, is in you and is externalized around you, is reacting to the vibrations of sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, and other people's thoughts and whatever they're projecting in their thoughts. And all of a sudden, something in there and somebody has something that your body feels unsafe about because it has memorized all of this previous information and is now reacting to it. 12 milliseconds. What a miracle machine we are. 12 milliseconds. Well, this is a survival suit, and its job is to survive us. Because this light being, it's basically awareness, and it works only through once it animates this suit through the way to keep us on this planet. I mean, humans are remarkable. We can, for this survival suit, we can live at the equator. We can live at the North Pole or the South Pole. And anywhere in between, we'll find out a way. We got this consciousness and this mind that will help us figure out how to survive. Now, it works really well until if you go up unguarded and pull yourself up about 20,000 feet above the planet, and what's going to happen? Hypoxia, lack of oxygen, and ultimately death. So we have this survival suit that is specifically suited to this planet. We can't wear this suit by itself on the moon. We can't wear it on Mars. We are this very unique being that is animated by this light. And we're here for whatever purposes. It had many variations of that, and different religions and things, how you go about finding that purpose. But there are two breaths. There's one breath that will let you be in presence. That's the key to it, is presence, instead of hypervigilance, which is the other breath. The hypervigilance doesn't serve us very well. Among the things that happens is the blood is sucked out of the frontal lobes of the brain in that 12 milliseconds. This all happens within 40 milliseconds to somewhat describe some of the actions. It pulls the blood, oxygenated blood, out of the frontal part of the brain, through the limbic brain, down to the reptilian brain.
Is that the medulla?
Yeah.
That would be the
The cerebrum to the medulla, to the limbic brain, to the midbrain, and then it's the paleo mammalian brain, which is the reptilian brain. You have the neo-mammalian brain, which is the limbic brain, basically, and that's pretty much what's animated around the planet with animals and so on. And then there's this higher level with the cerebrum. It's your ability to think, and we can speak and we can reason. We say we reason, I wonder sometimes. We reason as best we can based on our own perceptions. So you immediately in 12 milliseconds pulls that energy out of the brain, pulls it through the limbic brain down to the reptilian brain. The energy hits on the top of the trapezius, comes up and gets the eyebrows. Literally will pinch the eyebrows together because it'll open up the eyes, it dilates the eyes, the throat. Your ability to speak is somewhat interesting, or the throat will dry out. Chris and I were up here talking about getting ready for this program. You're sitting there going gulp and trying to swallow a little bit and hope something will come out of your mouth when you get ready to start speaking. They say that speaking is next to death the most feared thing on the planet for humans. I mean, after death, the fear of getting up and speaking in front of others is just terrifying. I actually had a student of mine who would pass out. She would have to get up. She would literally go up and walk and just pass out. I mean, it can be that frightening to you. The next thing, it comes into the heart. Now, this is all in this process of 40 milliseconds, less than the blink of an eye. The energy comes down into the heart. The heart muscle thickens and begins to pound. It raises your blood pressure. The liver, which holds the blood, the heart pumps the blood, but the liver, it is the guardian of the blood, if you will. It's like a big balloon, and it immediately squeezes down and increases the blood in the body by about 400 to 500%. And when it pushes it out in there, well, it creates the glucose, which it is pushing out there, because the body's got a fight or flight, so it needs all this extra energy. And it pushes all that blood out of there into the heart. When you use your muscles and you're doing this weightlifting, your muscles will pump up for a while and then they'll go back down when you get done. That's the liver squeezing down and putting more blood into your system. That's an example of it. The heart muscle thickens because and it's getting all this pounding, so it's literally strengthening in order to do it. But then rapid pulse will come up. The adrenaline comes up out of the it comes up. It hits the amygdala in the brain, and the cortex. The adrenal cortex sends cortisol up. The cortisol goes to the amygdala, sends a signal down to the pancreas, and it tells the pancreas to create all of this it's an anti-inflammatory. What do you do? What is the help me with the what you do when you're diabetic and you got to have the insulin. Yeah, thank you. Insulin. It creates insulin. It's an anti-inflammatory. If you're going to be fighting a tiger, of course, it's already preparing you to let your body not go into this anti-inflammatory state. In 40 milliseconds, the diaphragm literally slams up and locks around the rib cage. The diaphragm seals the entire thoracic cavity from here up through here. The diaphragm suddenly just locks. Well, the diaphragm's supposed to be moving downward on the inhale and upward on the exhale. So the system does this instantaneous, 40 milliseconds, that's all done. It's this instantaneous shift. And when it does that, it's a binary system. The fight or flight system is connected to the autonomic nervous system, which controls everything in the body. But it's kind of like a dumb waiter, if you will. It's there. It's getting the heart to beat. It's getting the liver to do its thing. And all the systems in your body are automatically running. So autonomic is the automatic system. However, that autonomic nervous system is amplified and run by either this fight or flight system or this parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, heal system. It's binary. It is a binary system. Both the autonomic system is always being run by the sympathetic nervous system. It is constantly running, so it's always happening. But what we have is the ability to create parasympathetic dominance and therefore subdue that fight or flight response and put ourselves back in this rest, digest, heal. When you're an infant, you don't have any threats, basically.
That's my question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. When or why do we cease to have that parasympathetic system predominate our breathing?
Yeah.
What and when really does that happen? Or is it different for everyone?
It's pretty much the same for everyone. We will have moments of parasympathetic domination. And you mentioned that you do meditation, and there's times when no mind is there. Well, there's no mind, that means all the thoughts are out of your mind. And we played with the breath there, and you took about 3 breaths, and you said, this is where I get when I do all this meditation. So yes, there's times when we will have that aspect of our nature, the parasympathetic. It will dominate. We can manufacture it, but we can't keep it until you learn the breath. That's the purpose of this, is learning conscious breathing. Right now we're using subconscious breathing. We're breathing just because we've memorized how to do it now. We're a mnemonic machine. We learn by experience, and when we do, we habituate that experience. When you start doing it wrong, it doesn't matter whether it's wrong or right, it's just how you do it. Aristotle said we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. Well, you can substitute the word excellence out of that and put the way we breathe, or any other word in there. It's what we repeatedly do, and then we habituate it. When we do, then we're locked in that state. Then we got to sit there for 10, 15, 20 minutes and try to get ourselves in that place. We'll do it sometimes in sleep. Actually, what happens when you have a panic attack and finally you just pass out, what's happened, you've gone to a point that the body automatically will kick you back into parasympathetic, and you'll come back together. I mean, we're really remarkable. So
Does it just take that 40 milliseconds?
well, 40 milliseconds that's the on-ramp.
Okay.
Once it's started, then it depends on how much more of a threat and terror and whatever's going on, until you'll go out of body. There's brainwave patterns. We're typically familiar, most people are, with the beta brainwave pattern. That's our waking state from about 12 milliseconds or 12 hertz or 12 vibrations per second, and up to about 20 cycles per second. 20 to 30 is high beta. And after that, that's when you're going to kick out of body. You're going to kick out of body, and you'll go into either pass out, or you'll have this out-of-body experience we have, and you're watching yourself while it's going on. People have had wrecks or been in surgery. They talk about watching all that. Well, that's what they've done. The next level down is the alpha state. Well, Qigong, when you start doing Qigong, and Qi means life force energy, Gong means skill. It's just a skillful use of life force energy. And when you can get down to that level, you will have you'll move the brainwave patterns, the cycles per second, down between 12 and 8 cycles per second. That's the alpha state. That's where your learning is accelerated, where time dilates, like you're doing something, it's a peaceful state. You look up, and I've been doing this for 3 hours, and it seems like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's time dilation. The next down is the theta level. That's rapid eye movement. That's where where your dream sleep is. And the being distracted here a little bit. So that's what we're going to do is first work with this aspect of our nature. Let me move down to the theta and then down to delta, which is dead away sleep. And we're going to terminate there for a few minutes, and then we'll pick up on the other side.